Hello, my name is Randy Olivani. I'm going to be giving an overview of the information system security policy for Canyon Aeronautics. Just a little background of this company for those that may not know. It's a leading government contractor for internal and external air and spacecraft parts that's headquartered in Urbantown, Texas. They got just under 50 employees. Diving right in, let's give an overview of what is going to be covered in today's video. So the topics that are going to be discussed are, first off, what is an information security policy and why is it needed? Then we're going to dive into issues of network management and proposed possible solutions. We're also going to discuss how security principles and practices will be applied to various aspects of the system. We're going to talk about the importance of cryptographic protocols, evaluate security mechanism based on cryptography, and also discuss logical access controls. So diving right into it, basically, a security policy is a document that spells out the rules, expectation, and overall approach that an organization uses to maintain the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of its data. An intricate part of that process is going to be conducting risk assessments to identify what information needs protection, levels of protection needed, what current threats exist, and what internal policies need to be defined for different elements of information security, as well as laws and regulation that might apply to Canyon Aeronautics. Specifically, that would be STIG compliance since we are a government contractor, and there's also DFARS, which is a Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation supplement that would apply due to our involvement with the government. So, getting into the purpose of this information security document, it is supposed to outline security considerations and acceptable use of computer equipment and other electronic devices at Canyon Aeronautics. These guidelines will help reduce physical and system vulnerabilities, and it aims to prevent unauthorized access and disclosure of sensitive data. Getting into the scope of this policy, it applies to the use of information, electronic, and computing devices, as well as network resources to conduct Canyon Aeronautic business. So it's going to be applicable to all employees, contractors, consultants, temporary and other workers at Canyon Aeronautics and its subsidiaries. And it'll apply to all equipment that is owned or leased by Canyon Aeronautics. So let's begin with discussing network management issues and solutions. So one of the biggest problems identified is adapting to hybrid networking environments and configuration management. So in modern networks, there are just so many different configurations that are possible. To help combat this issue, when there's new hardware or capabilities that need to be installed, the recommendation would be to thoroughly research and ensure interoperability with the current infrastructure, and prior to deployment, just thoroughly testing every function within a sandbox environment prior to the product going live. Other network issues that are identified would be performance issues such as bottlenecks and overloading. So to combat those issues, network segmentation would be a good approach to reduce bottlenecks and help with the flow of traffic. Also mapping out network requirements to identify overloaded areas in addition to areas of low consumption so that the network can be rebalanced and ensure that we optimize our performance. To also aid in that process, automation solutions like Ansible, Puppet, and Chef would be great tools to implement to help tackle those issues. Reduce network security due to the inclusion of newer dynamic and agile technology without implementing adequate network security appliances is another issue. So taking the time to include network monitoring and automation tools that help oversee and enforce network security objectives. Some suggestions would be next-gen firewalls, a newer version of intrusion detection systems and intrusion prevention systems that can provide like advanced threat detection, monitor network traffic, analyze behavior, and trigger automatic responses to any security incidences that are detected. And then another part of that would be enforcing strict security policies and guidelines to help drive that process to ensure that baseline security configurations are maintained. Lastly, there's network blind spots that can exist due to the span distribution and inclusion of multiple environments that modern networks have. So using a comprehensive network managing tool would provide a centralized management console with visibility over the entire network that will help eliminate those blind spots and provide a more holistic approach to network management, making things simpler to oversee and manage. Alrighty, so next we're going to get into how professionals will apply security principles and practices to the environment, hardware, software, and human aspects of the system. So the security principles that are most important to any system are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So let's take a look at how professionals will apply those principles in each of those categories. And we'll begin by defining confidentiality. So confidentiality is designed to ensure data is only accessed and used by authorized personnel. So from a system environment approach, confidentiality will be achieved through the use of encryption and secure protocols, so things like transport layer security. For the human aspects, it'll be achieved through the use of strong password policies and things like two-factor authentication. For hardware confidentiality, will be achieved by using physical access restrictions like security locks, cipher locks, and through the use of things like CCTV surveillance. For software confidentiality, that'll be achieved through the use of access controls, incorporating the concept of least privilege, where access to resources and data will be based on a valid need to know and the role within the company. Moving on to integrity. So integrity is the accuracy and consistency of data, meaning it's not been altered or changed from its original form, deeming it trustworthy. System environment integrity will be ensured by using things like checksums and hash algorithm integrity checks to maintain the accuracy of data stored, received, and transferred between two endpoints. For human aspects of system integrity, the principle of least privilege will apply by only allowing authorized individuals to access specific information. It helps enforce that concept of data integrity. For hardware and software integrity, a secure boot process will be used, including trusted platform modules, to establish a chain of trust and ensure the system is only running trusted software, and it'll validate the authenticity by using digital signatures to ensure there's no evidence of tampering. Lastly, let's get into availability, which is the principle that ensures information is available and accessible whenever an authorized user needs access to it. So system availability will be the hardest to maintain because there's so many factors that go into it. But this will generally be achieved by a process of conducting risk assessments to determine threats to organizational assets and deploying security countermeasures to mitigate or eliminate all threats that are identified. Additionally, the concept of distributed data storage, regular backups, continuous monitoring, and regular system maintenance and updates will all contribute to system health and availability. Looking at human aspects of system availability, that'll be achieved by efficient communication to identify when users cannot access the system or portions of the system, determine the scope of the outage, the users affected, and initiating collaborative efforts between multiple departments to restore functionality to minimize downtime or the loss of production. Software availability will be achieved through distributing applications across multiple servers and using monitoring and management tools to monitor application performance and quickly remediate issues. Hardware availability will be achieved through the concept of redundancy with load balancing enabled to distribute system overhead, and failover clustering will also be incorporated to maintain capabilities in the event of hardware failure. Moving on to the importance of cryptographic protocols, tools, and techniques. So, cryptographic protocols, tools, and techniques are designed to ensure the confidentiality and integrity of data using the process of encryption and public key infrastructure. So encryption usually ensures the confidentiality of data at rest and data in transit because it can only be read by users with authorized access that have the decryption key. Public key infrastructure aid this process by using digital signatures as an authentication mechanism to verify the sender or receiver is who they claim to be. So examples of encryption tools and protocols would be Secure Shell, Transport Layer Security, Secure Hypertext Transfer Protocol, Advanced Encryption Standard, Rives, Shamir, Adelman. Internet protocol security, Kerberos, pretty good privacy, Wi-Fi protected access. All those protocols and techniques are designed to improve security of various processes, including user authentication, secure TCP/IP internet communications, protect data at rest or in transit, facilitate secure email exchanges, securely connect to remote computers over an unsecured network, or enable secure network communications over wireless connections. So encryption is very important, and that's why it needs to be implemented in every facet where it's feasible. Moving on to security mechanisms based on cryptography. So the latest versions of these cipher suites should be used because older standards may be considered insecure and easy to break. So there's numerous processes that use cryptography. So for authentication-based cryptography like Kerberos, they should use newer versions of encryption like SHA 512. 512 indicates the key length, so it's 512 bits, and should also support newer encryption standards as they come out. Data storage and transit encryption should be use sophisticated encryption standards like AES 256. That's kind of the de facto standard at this point. Browser security should incorporate the requirement to use HTTPS and uses TLS 1.3 based encryption to ensure the authenticity and provide secure data transmissions between two endpoints over the internet. Password protection standards should use encryption suites like Argon 2 and Bcrypt with SALT to bolster security and ensure that password storage cannot be accessed by unauthorized parties. To verify signatures, file signatures, and certificates, SHA 256 should be used because older versions like MD5 are considered insecure. Hardware-based encryption techniques should also be included with Microsoft BitLocker or self-encrypting device drives, SEDs. And then lastly, like common communication types such as email should use encryption to protect sensitive data and privacy using encryption methods like Pretty Good Privacy and Secure Multi-Purpose Internet Mail Extension, SMIME, along with TLS encryption. So lastly, let's get into logical access controls to data processing systems. So logical access controls involve an automated system that controls an individual's ability to access computer system resources. The most common logical access control used is a password to gain system access. Other logical access controls include PINs that are common, but they're much less secure because they use a combination of numbers of a specified length, so generally easy to crack. There are biometrics that can be an option to serve as authorization credentials, and that's going to be unique to the user. Something like a fingerprint scan, iris or retina scan, or facial recognition software to authenticate users. Smart card tokens are another authentication mechanism that uses a microchip to store user credentials in the form of a private key, and then when that card is inserted into a card reader and connected to the system, the user certificates are validated. Tokens like USB security tokens provide a means of hardware-based authentication where the user must possess the token and insert it into the system to be authorized to access system resources. And then cryptography-based authentication is the process that combines a cryptographic key and a cryptographic engine with an authentication request in response to verify users and grant them system access. It's important to note that to improve security, generally a combination of those methods will be used, and that's referred to as multi-factor authentication. The most popular is including something you know with something you are or something you have. So for like government organizations, two-factor authentication involves the use of something the user has, like a smart card, and that's used in combination with something the user knows, which is their security PIN, and that those two multi-factor authentication items are used to gain access to the system. So that is an overview of the information security policy for Canyon Aeronautics. If there's any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to the IT team and they can expound on any other process.